So before we start with intellectual property, I just want to know from students, how many of you have learned intellectual property during your graduate studies? I'm sure many of you would have learned. Yes? So basically you are aware of, and how many of you have not learned it? So almost everybody knows about intellectual property. Good, my work is easier. So today we'll talk about how intellectual property can help us uh, through our career, through our whatever job, or through a research proposal which Nagarsenkar ma'am talked. And how do you use that as a strategy to market pharmaceuticals? Because ultimately that's the aim. A lot of or many of you have come here for doing your postgraduate studies and your doctoral studies. So aim is to continue in research, I guess, for everyone. And research, unless you own intellectual property these days, uh, you're not recognized as a researcher, I would say. So having said in having been at corporate for almost more than 3 decades now, so we've seen not many research projects in different way. Uh, all I would say is that intellectual property is a product of human intellect, which we all think we are intelligent, but it's not. Being intelligent alone is not sufficient. You need to be smart too, right? So smart to manage whatever your intellectual, whatever your intellect creates. So let's see how will we create also, and how will we. I'm going to skip like Nagarsenkar madam. Even I'm going to skip so many slides because otherwise we'll be here till evening. So. So these are some basic slides, and I'm sure everyone is aware of intellectual property. So I'm not going to go into much details. We all know that anything which is novel and inventive leads a novel, inventive, and whatever is industrially applicable is capable enough to give us a patent. The major question here is, what is novel? What is inventive? Okay, let's talk straight pharmacy first. I'm an entrepreneur. Consider me as an entrepreneur. And I've developed one particular cream which enhances a cleansing effect and also imparts some fairness. Uh, so now I've put those cream formulation on internet for selling, e-commerce, like these days people do that. But before that, I was smart enough to file a patent on it. Now suddenly I realized when the product went in market and when people used it, friends, relatives, or those who were visiting e-commerce site, those who used it, they realized that, I realized, like, I kept on doing exercise. Obviously, when you put a product in market, you always try to do better and better version of the same so that it runs for a longer time, isn't it? I'm sure we all are aware of the brand companies which do that. So in any field, not even pharmacy, in any this thing, we come with a better version of the product always. So here I came up with some percentage increase, like I added jojoba oil to it to a specific percentage, and I realized that it significantly increases the cleansing effect and also imparts some fairness. But I've already filed a patent. So how do I try to protect this one? Is it novel? Is this, it is, we all know jojoba oil increases cleansing effect. I'm sure everybody knows. Now with that information which is available, can anyone say what I said just now is novel? Anyone in the class who thinks it is? Mm, not novel. Everyone thinks it is not novel. Anyone who thinks it is novel? Not a single person. You don't think it is novel? So you want me to be Amitabh Bachchan to ask everyone lock kiya jaye or no? So you think it can be novel? For this, what's the reason? Jojoba is always used in formulation. No, it's not used alone. Okay, so she thinks it is novel. If anybody is in her party, any other person? What's your name, beta? Vaishnavi. Anybody is in Vaishnavi's party? Okay, got one person. What else? Who else is there? Fortunately, Vaishnavi is correct. It is novel. Tell me why. चलो मैम सेट तो वैष्णवी बोलेगी. हाँ. But I have already filed a patent, no? I'm saying after I filed a patent, I have got this. Patent jo file kiya, I have used jojoba oil inside. Now I have used some extra percentage of jojoba oil, which is giving me the effect. Somebody was in Vaishnavi's party. So can you help her? Add in that patent only. Very good. But is it novel or no? We are using a different percentage. Okay, so it is novel. Is it inventive? What is inventiveness then? It is not inventive because she's already used in, I've already used that in my primary formulation, right? Only what I've done is now I've increased the percentage. So my final product, which a better version of it, which I'm going to sell now, is going to have that improved version of my cream. I want to have the protection for improved version too, because ultimately whatever I have filed now is not going to have that exact percentage. So what I am going to need now for this better version is another protection. I will not get it because certainly I've already disclosed the same thing earlier. So now what I would need it, can I file another patent with it? Yes, I can file patent of addition which will expire with the earlier patent. So now that means this is, I am acting smart to protect my inventions. So here itself you told me the difference between what is novel and what is inventive. Something which is, anything can be new. It can be a reaction temperature. It can be in addition of a catalyst. It can be addition of increase in the yield. It what can be inventive is something which is never reported earlier, not heard earlier, but for whom? For me, everything is Greek and Latin for a phone part. So not heard. Any improvement in this? Not heard for me. Not understandable by me too. So is it possible that I would say that if I have not heard it, it becomes inventive? No. So the simple inventive concept is it's only for an average person who can think about it. So an average chemist or an average pharmacist. Now what do you mean by this average pharmacist? Who's a clever pharmacist and who's an average pharmacist? Who's going to decide that? Who's going to decide that?
I just want one comment as you think of that. So when you listen to her session today, keep in mind the projects that you're currently working on, and just try connecting them together with what she's saying, so that will make it more productive. Don't listen as a session. Listen to what all of you have initiated a research project in that context. Sunna. So, इसके बाद you will be more productive.
I'm sure after this, everybody is going to think of it. Don't worry. Okay. So, where were we? That means anybody is average pharmacist, or so usually, I'm saying the word usually, it is said that a person who is working for 3 to 5 years is in a pharmacy lab is considered with the same, if it is pharmaceutics person or the invention belongs to pharmaceutics, a person who has worked for 3 to 5 years is usually, this has been derived by various decisions in the court. So US court or India court or European court, whichever court, they decide that it is approx around, everybody is agreed that it is 3 to 5 years, a person who's average skilled in the art can be. So obviously that is something which can we relate to, that when a mom is an expert cook, somebody who's worked in cooking or who knows cooking from last approx 30-40 years, but I have started only after my MPharm. So in 3-4 years, I have just learned basic things. I cannot compare myself with a person who's 30-40 years experience with just 5 years experience. So that 5 years experience is considered as an average person who's skilled in the art, who knows the basics of the subject. Okay, so with that, let's move ahead. So when we get with, if it is novel, if it is inventive, if it is commercially utilizable, a patent is something when you are disclosing it. Why patent is necessary? We all know that because it's an one step ahead to the science. So why you are asked to disclose by government is when you're disclosing it, it is available after few years, after few months or after a year, it is available to public, and that's what its use can give you further steps like reading nanoship patterns. We know that where the science is going and you can contribute further to it. So once you get the patent, it's a monopoly right. We all know monopoly is a negative right. That means you can exclude everyone. If I have a patent, I can assert my right. So it is like owning a flat. If I have a flat, I have the keys and I won't allow anyone without my permission to enter into my flat. This is similarly, it's a property, though it is intellectual, but it should be treated like a property, and all the rights, like you can mortgage a patent, you can license a patent, you can sell a patent, you can get a loan on intellectual property too. Yes, many people don't know it, but it's possible. So it is, you can treat it as property, as making, using, offering for sale, or even importing intellectual property. And it is for 20 years from date of filing. I think that everybody knows. So let's keep those slides. We were talking about inventive step. We just talked about. India defines the inventive step, India and Europe. We all know that most of our laws have come from British laws because we were under British rule for many years. So Europe and India, they think about inventive step simply to define as a problem solution approach. So you define some problem and try to give a solution. So if you have that problem solution approach, whatever was the technical problem, what is the solution and how that solution is economically important. So when we say that there is a, you have developed something which is improvement of this pen, whether it is the nib or something, you may have developed something which automatically refill, you don't have to change. Nowadays, you also get those kind of pens. So, but if you go to read the patent, it says very smartly as ink dispenser. It is not called as, title is not pen. So that is how you consider, you describe your problem. Say for example, there's nothing where I can write here, no? It's a smart board, but oh, okay, no problem. I'm using a toothbrush. Consider this as a toothbrush, and there's a plastic round attached to the toothbrush, to the stem of the toothbrush. Considering that as a, where I can use that round, I can keep the toothbrush anywhere, hang it around. What will happen is, it will, when you brush your teeth, it's wet. When you hang it around with that stand, it, water drips down, it leads to a hygienic this thing, right? So do you think this is novel, inventive? Yes, no? Is it inventive, is it not? Who thinks it is not inventive? Great, I got at least 1%. Okay, why you think it is not inventive? Okay, so he thinks this is only modification. Now, I want to hear from someone who thinks it is inventive. You think it is inventive. Why? Purpose is? It's for, okay, what is the purpose? Good. To dry toothbrush. Okay. So he thinks it is inventive. Partly you're correct. Because the patent which this person got is whatever this stand he has named this round which is whatever round attachment as toothbrush stand. It's a patent for toothbrush stand. Abhi, where do you find a stand here? Nowhere. But what he explained to examiner that all the toothbrush stands that are available till date are stands wherein you have to keep your brush upright position. That means water is not going to drip down. Upright position, it still remains. No, water is slowly going to come down. So it is not going to leave its hygienic. Whereas I am keeping, this is, and plus stands occupy a lot of space. Whereas this I can carry anywhere with me. So this is a nice option for, and I can make this in different shapes too. So I can make it a nice pediatric toothbrush. So that's what is, I was talking about problem solution approach. He identified the problem in a different way. And to make even a small modification appear like an invention. So what does this tell me is, why I gave this example is, it's a very beautiful example of inventive step, is something what you create as problem solution approach. It is the way you convince the examiner that this was a problem in prior art, and obviously this has economic significance because this is going to be very economical rather than producing the stands, right? So by the way, this is a granted US patent which expired in 2019. So so this shows that the way you perceive technical problem and solution requires a smart approach. Anything which appears modification, if you can make it into a technical solution to a problem, you're granted a patent. And we'll see in a while how patent office is granted. Otherwise, we all know as per Indian Patent Act, I'm not going to go in the Patent Act details, but everything, if you combine anything, unless there is a combined effect that is exerted or that is demonstrated, it is not going to be patentable by examiner. So this approach would definitely help us in getting the patents granted. So this says how many inventions. I'm going to skip these basic slides. So this is something about Velcro invention. So this is just to tell you that how accidental things happen. So say take Post-it as an example. It was a failed experiment where the person from 3M, when he was trying for a glue which is strong enough, but what he got was a weak glue, and he didn't know what to do with that weak glue. So he just left it there, but he recorded whatever he got. And when some other person after a few years was looking into his notes, found out that this glue, when you use this, it doesn't leave stains. And that's where he used it as on post-it notes. So which 3M patented, and we all know what post-it created. So it's one of the major products till date for 3M. So this is just to tell you that in pharmacy also, can anyone give me an example of a failed experiment in pharmacy which has turned out in millions? Anyone knows pharmacy history? Penicillin, why it was a failed experiment? It gave a lot of allergic reactions when the first time the dose was tried. So later on, the modifications were done, and today we know that it not only gave a lot of revenue for penicillin inventor, but also it opened up another class, beta lactams, which till date, whatever, like we are into beta lactam fourth generations or fifth generations today, we are still very effective against antibacterial drugs. So there are a lot of other failed experiments too who have learned millions. So think over, you will get many of it in your mind. And if there are good examples, why we're talking about this, because Nagarsenkar ma'am just talked about inventions which or collaborations with industry. So this is like azithromycin is a very good example by a small company who had developed it and sold it to uh, Pfizer. And we all know that even if you open US Patent Office site today, you will see some new application for azithromycin till date. So it's almost now 90 plus years of discovery of azithromycin. Still, it is earning revenue for Pfizer. Another example, such as like even Indian companies, they've like clarithromycin. We all know clarithromycin was invented by Bayer, and when Ranbaxy came in, the drug was still patented, but Ranbaxy formulated once a day delivery, and Bayer licensed it from Ranbaxy. Like likewise, there are lot many examples where from university, the college, like there are almost 3 molecules recently with Zydus did a deal with. They are also doing a deal with Janssen. So there are lot many examples of universities coming into with new chemical compounds and licensing it out. Formulations, there are ample of such examples. Like ma'am herself told us that Johnson and Johnson is known very well. Pfizer is known very well to work with uh, pharmacy institutions or science institutions to come up with a lot of complex products. So, like still yesterday, we had not thought about simple products like we were all aware of, say, for example, calcium therapy as Sandoz. We know Sandocal, everybody knew. Then a lot of calcium oral preparations are known, but Cipla came up with first time with nasal spray of calcium. Calcitonin nasal spray. Vitamin D preparations, like earlier we already only had soft gelatin capsules. So now we already have micellar preparations or microemulsion formulations or even nasal preparations of vitamin D in market. And they are making very good revenues. One of such vitamin D formulation was licensed through European University. So that shows that you just need to have concept of delivery, like I can have ample of examples of such this thing. Even ondansetron, the platform technology, innovator had to license, like PAR licensed it with farm film technology providers to make it as ondansetron patches, and today it has turned out to be a very useful delivery because for post-operative patients, ondansetron patches have really useful. Another such example is bupropion patch, which is a very good, like even Mankind is selling in India too now, Buveller patch. So all these have come out from either small companies or universities. So this shows that if you have a concept, you can always patent it and commercialize it. Okay, so now let's move ahead. So novelty, I think we've discussed, so I'm going to skip that. So novelty, anything which is reported anywhere, literature, books, journals, publications, newspapers. Can someone say that if it is written in a thesis, novelty is there or is lost? If you have read in someone's thesis and you want to work on similar concept, if trans-double patches of estradiol and progesterone is reported in someone's thesis, you want to try on E3, that is newer estradiol with transdermal. It is not published, it is just reported in thesis. Would your concept become novel? How? So is thesis considered to be a publication or no? No. He says no. Anyone else feels thesis is a publication? Exactly, thesis. So thesis is a publication, even though it is not reported anywhere. Thesis is considered as a publication. So if it is reported in thesis, it is considered as prior art.
Will it show up in thesis?
It will show up. It will show up in the
Farm thesis of our college. We don't put them anywhere.
It will come in the chemical abstracts. If the coverage is
no, if we have not put in Shodhganga, we have kept them in a
no, now Shodhganga is compulsory. No, it is considered as, even if you come to know it later, it is published. It is considered as published. It can be claimed. Okay, so both of us are very good friends. We work. Both of us are very good friends. We like working together. So we worked together for a project. We tried developing a nasal spray, and I finished my PhD earlier than her, and I left it because I got a job in company. Unfortunately, thesis, both of us had different drugs, but we had, after I left, when she tried to file a patent, she included my drug also. I was not aware of the same because I started working for a corporate, so I didn't pay attention to it. And we lost touch because I became busy. I only read somewhere in after when she filed a patent, it was published after 18 months, and I saw in there. Uh, do you think I can? What should I do? Only fighting with her will not give me my right back. No. What can I do? Yes. What can I do? I don't have money and strength to sue you. Sue, no? File a suit. So what should I do? She has filed a patent. It is published. It is not yet granted. I can challenge her patent on the ground of wrongful obtaining. And if I have proof of my lab notebooks, I can show it to patent office and either cancel her patent or get my name included. Or get my name forcefully included.
But that is the best option.
That's the best. So these days you see a lot of, why I told you this, these days we see a lot of wrongful obtaining grounds at patent office.
And that also signifies both the importance of a very systematic lab notebook. So I don't keep.
Yes, always the proof always speaks. See, law, intellectual properties law. So whenever law-wise, there is a saying, whatever is written is read and whatever is read is interpreted. So if you've not written anything, you can't read. If you can't read, you can't interpret. And so to say, you can't assert on anyone. So that means if you have bought a flat, but if you don't have papers on flat on your name, you can't do anything. Okay. So this is what we saw. So another one is I want to draw your attention to, if you are going for a conference, you are in hurry that your paper you've sent a paper, it got accepted. You're very happy you got best paper award. You came, you had exams, you became busy. You didn't file a patent. After exams, you remembered patent to file karna reh gaya. Filed a patent. Do you think you've lost novelty or you still have it? Your subject was pretty complex. You're sure that nobody has worked on it till now. But 1 year is still not gone. Would I get some time period if I have forgotten? Would patent office consider my reasoning? No. Government can't be so cruel every time. So what do I get is, the law says that it is still, I can, wherever if I presented, I can still file the patent within a year's time. So today, 12th November 2022, if I have presented something, or if I have sent an abstract on 20, so I presented it on 12th November. But if I sent my abstract 2 months earlier, on 12th of August, then before 12th of August 2023, I am supposed to file a patent for the same subject. So consider from the date of disclosure, within 1 year you should file it. If you fail to do it, then you have lost the rights. Then it will be a prior art. Paper also. It is paper also. This is true. So the way, it is not that when you accept it, when you're sending a paper, it is also true for saying what is your clinical trial protocol. If you need to do some human trials and you have submitted your protocol to DCGI, or if you are submitting, as Nagarsenkar ma'am said, if you have done a pilot studies and you are submitting for a grant. So the moment, before you, if today I sent my proposal to government, 12th November 22, I am submitting my proposal to government, but I have filed my DCGI protocol to DCGI before 8 months. So within next 4 months, I should file the patent, because my first date then would become the date when I have submitted my protocol to DCGI. Because I am going to include those results and the protocol in my studies, right? In my patent. You can file a provisional first.
So that will protect you.
That will protect you. It is like you have to do a journey. What do we do is take a ticket at least. Journey is important. Take a ticket at least. A confirmed ticket always gives a sukoon. But if you don't have a confirmed ticket, at least take a ticket first. Okay. It's like we buy open ticket to a flight journey anytime. And then open ticket also you get simple ways to remember is open ticket also you have a date limit. Right? With beyond which it will not be workable. So that means when you file provisional, you have to have the fence of your application. Beyond that scope, if you go, you will not get a patent for that. So either you file a
Provisional and complete.
1 year.
Now I want to ask this question. Project wala question.
Hmm.
Project mein agar main 6
If
mahine
one sec, instead of internally discussing, please ask it to me so that everyone can benefit. I'm sure definitely there are going to be many questions.
So in the if I am submitting a project and I have filed for that, I have applied for the permission to clinical trial. So my entire project will be complete maybe in 4 years. Do I still have time to file my complete application? Because then
You have, see, first is before you submit your protocol or even proposal, file a provisional application. After provisional, you will have 1 year to file your complete and PCT too. So within that 1 year, you will know what is happening to your project,
but you
right?
don't have complete data, but you can do a complete application without that.
Yeah, even like today you have done, see today you filed one provisional application, then you think that you've also done some trials which shows that it is affecting, like say I did some trials on metformin. I realized that, metformin patch, say for example, and metformin patch is also having some anticolis, some other effect. So I want to capture this also, but my first provisional doesn't include that. So how do I increase my scope if I have to capture that date? So I can file another provisional and then combine the two at the time of 1 year from the first date. I can file multiple provisional and combine, but it should be combined from the first date of first provisional. It's like I bought the house and I'm slowly trying to furnish it, but I will inaugurate and have Vastu Puja after first buying date because that is auspicious for me.
But then the prior
Good way of remembering, no?
the prior date will be 12th November. Although
Yes.
I topped up
Keep adding, but first date is important because that's your primary date.
so 1 year took the date of first provisional or last multiple?
First provisional. But you can still include your improvisations, no? That's important, no? You want to include your improvisation. If you have filed a provisional with 7%, but your clinical data shows that आपने 3 formulations दिए testing को, so 7, 8, 9, you thought that 8% is giving better result. You want to include 8%. You can do that, no, with another provisional. Industry R&D departments usually work on this strategy. So that is you file first provisional first, file second, third, and later on combine it. But one thing you have to keep in mind is you don't deviate to the scope too much. So like initially you wanted to claim formulation only. Now you want to claim the dose also. Then you want to claim the process also. You can have different patents. So remember, one patent should always be for one invention. If you feel that the second modification, whatever you have done, is a standalone one or is inventive, then file another patent. So that's how, say, I'll take simple example of secnidazole. Secnidazole is an old drug. Secnidazole was available as tablets. Recently, one company developed secnidazole granules, but they were a small company. So they took secnidazole, obviously NC patent is expired. So you will now have only secnidazole formulation patent. So they took the basic granules patent and the primary use patent. But the company who took over this entire NDA, entire new drug application, they did some other test on the, yeah. So there's one or two patents they were doing some new indication trials on secnidazole, on protozoal and this thing. There were different kind of species they were trying. So 2 or 3 species trial they had just filed it, but they, when they sold their NDA in between because they were short of fundings to this company filed additional patents or continuation patents to the same one, and they created a patent portfolio. That means today that secnidazole granules has 6 to 7 patents just from 2 patents. So that means now anyone who wants to develop a generic formulation would have to cross all these 6 patents. Yes, have come in OB. So if you list, if you see this, this is a live example. Secnidazole was taken over by Lupin with X millions deal, and Lupin added secnidazole generic company, I mean the innovator company, they got upfront payment also. And not only that, Lupin took their prosecution expenses also, and their patents are listed in Orange Book, and Lupin launched a product on their behalf now. So you can see the recently patents were listed in 2020. So yes, different uses also. Anything now you can add.
For example, one drug for BP, same drug for cancer.
Yeah, but you have to see that you can't file continuation. If you think it is novel but not inventive, then India we call it as patent of addition. We just took that jojoba oil example. In US you call that as continuation patent. Or you think that, you are debating with examiner, say for example, you had filed 2 to 5% of super disintegrant is used, and your claim suggests 2 to 5% of super disintegrant. Now examiner is saying 2 to 5% you have given, but you have given me example of only up to 3%. I'm not going to grant you 2 to 5%. How do I know that it is working for 5%? Then you tell examiner, okay, then you grant me only up to 3%. So that means I have given up those 2 percentages, right? But now I don't want to still give up, because what if my protection is for 20 years? What if tomorrow somebody comes up with it? I'm not ready to leave that 2%. So what do I do is, my patent is still not granted. I can file a divisional application with a broad claim again. हो सकता है it will go to another examiner who understands me. Your understanding and my understanding is never same. Two independent people's understanding is never going to be the same. So that is where you will see lot many divisionals also. If you've missed something to claim, you can add in your divisional without changing the scope, you can add in. So that is divisional. So that's how we land up with a family of patents. So that means from one patent you can have patent of addition, continuation in part, divisional, etc. So that's how a tree is created for one product. Authentication responsibility is if somebody's lab notebook is always written by a scientist, and if it is in corporate, his or her superior will sign. So that's the authentication. In college or university, it is the student and the faculty.
But then how does patent office know that it is really a genuine lab notebook which has been generated earlier?
They'll question you, and they have a neck of understanding in questions. In US, it is called depositions, so official depositions, where you will come to know. They'll cross question you, so that you will come to know.
See, there is no written that, for example, we conducted this experiment on this particular day, unless you have the printouts of the results.
let's say for example, I'm weighing for the experiment or I'm doing
So
some measurement.
normally what that is why we tell students like at least SPP, SPTM and after I joined, I've told them to add printouts to your lab notebooks.
That's how we do in industry.
Like how we do it in industry. So it is mandatory because that will show you that you've done the experiments. Okay, so these are some of the tips to come out of obviousness. Often examiner stops at what is inventive because you may convince him on novelty that it is not published or patented anywhere, but everywhere what you can not convince him, it is ultimately, I showed you with the toothbrush example, it is ultimately a convincing affair. So these are some of the tips that can help you with a convincing affair. That means if you show him that it is either a new indication, it is obviously going to be inventive. If it is synergistic effect, so if you are showing that the effect is something which was unexpected, that will lead to a non-obviousness. If it is a second, so a different dose or different mechanism of action, that is also going to lead a non-obviousness. So these are some of the tips if you can show the examiner that it is otherwise, as per Indian Patent Act, every formulation patent is falls under section 3E because it is considered as admixture. So we all know that when we mix atta with water, it's not going to be admixture. Is it admixture? No. What is formed when you add water to atta? What is formed? Dough, which will not have which will have properties of atta also and water also, but you cannot see the properties separately. Now it is transformed into something else, right? Okay, so tell me with this let's take one example to understand what is unexpected result. Azelastine is one of the antihistamines which is very well known. Momentazone is another anti-glucocorticoid which is known. Azelastine is available in India also as nasal spray. Momentazone is also available as nasal spray. Both are available for allergic rhinitis. Initially, when you have allergic rhinitis, बहुत सुर हो रहा है, doctor will give you antihistamine. If it doesn't stop for 3, 4, 5 days, then he'll say now take steroid. So he'll give you momentazone. A company decided to combine both and develop a nasal spray. Is it novel? Yes. Combination is not known. But is it inventive? Both exist and are commercialized as nasal spray. So what is inventive in it? It's an admixture of the two. There is synergy in it.
How will you show synergy? Okay. So that is one way. But you have to do efficacy. Without efficacy, how will I prove that this is inventive? Efficacy, so when I do the clinicals, I will come to know, no? Without that, by looking and studying the formulation, can I come to that inventive conclusion? One way can be dose. If the dose is same, then I've used the same dose in combination. Then if anyone who remembers, glucocorticoids are less soluble in, so momentazone exists as a suspension spray and azelastine is a solution spray. If we look at the formulation, now if you have to make a combination, is it not a challenge to a formulation scientist to develop a nasal spray of one soluble drug and one insoluble drug? So here is a story which Mangal Nagarsenkar ma'am was saying. Create a story which is convincible enough to the examiner. Yes,
That can also attract pain.
yes.
Azilazine is already in soluble form, and movement are both, you're solubilizing it, and both are.
That is a step ahead because this is just by looking at two. And so this is again a live example. Cipla had got a patent on azilastine and fluticasone, where fluticasone exists as a suspension spray and azilastine as a solution spray. Cipla combined the two, and as she's mentioned, it was not only showing fivefold the effect than the individual drug, but it was also a formulation challenge to land Cipla a good patent for the same. Cipla not only introduced the drug, the combination formulation in India, but Cipla licensed the patent to Meda Pharma. Meda Pharma did clinical studies for Cipla. Entire clinical studies were done by Meda Pharma. Meda Pharma submitted the NDA dossier to USA. They partnered with Cipla. Cipla's patents were listed in Orange Book, and Cipla and Meda Pharma decided to co-market the drug. Meda Pharma being and they sponsored for entire prosecution across the world. Cipla filed the patent in 80 plus countries and earned more than excess amount of $1 million with just a small concept of formulation improvement. It started with a concept of a formulation scientist trying to improve upon a simple formulation, a simple combination. Same dose. And Cipla also, now we'll come to the language of the claim in a while, how Cipla protected it more than 20 years. Nasal sprays in US, if you all know, we have studied in regulatory affairs that whenever you want to file a new drug application, nasal spray or ophthalmic preparations, etc., you need to do qualitative and quantitative similar formulations. So that means Cipla not only got the new formulation exclusivity, but even after the new formulation exclusivity expired, anyone who wants to develop a generic will have to first do the clinical trials, because if they have to come out of the formulation patent, they have to develop a non-infringing. The moment they change their formulation, they have to do clinical studies. So that means it was a long protection. And let's see how. So one sec, I'll come to this. Plus example. This is the patent. This is the product, Dimesta. You can Google it. Cipla also filed MOU patents for allergic rhinitis for combination. See, they had MOU patent in 23, composition patents expiring in 26. Generic entry till date, Teva has not entered. So only two companies have been able to come. And Cipla had filed the patent somewhere in 2002. 2002 to 2026. So it is beyond 20 years. Cipla was able to protect. Yeah, they filed para 4.
But in that case, if Q1 and Q2 cannot be same, then Apotex and Perigo.
They did clinical trials.
I have just one question. Say, for example, if you for 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years, anyone can make same formulation. If the formulation patented, after 20 years, same formulation can be made by anyone. They can make it.
Yeah. And Cipla protected, I don't have that slide here. Cipla filed for not only fluticasone, because at the time Cipla filed in 2002, Glaxo had just come up with a furoate salt. Earlier was what was known was fluticasone propionate. So Cipla smartly drafted the claim as azelastine and esters of fluticasone. And Europe, Glaxo came in here because obviously they had fluticasone furoate patent. So they came and challenged the patent in European Patent Office. Cipla had to go and defend and show the examiner that it is workable for all the esters and not only propionate. Yes, but if you, that's why that is the challenge that Cipla took it. They took physico-chemical characterization of all three, showed it that physico-chemical characterization matches, and therefore the invention is extendable to all the esters, which European Patent Office got convinced and they got it granted. Interesting enough. Okay. Mere increase in bioavailability. Yes, very much.
After 20 years, so I can make the same formula.
You can, secnidazole tablets were known.
But that formulation what Cipla made.
One second.
Don't make noise, please.
The formulation the Cipla made after 20 years, I can sell the same thing.
You can sell it. That is as a generic formula.
What is extended?
No, Cipla 20 years. Cipla didn't allow anyone. No, it is 26 years. Till the patent expired, nobody can come in.
Same formulation what Cipla is making. I can make and sell.
You till the patent is there, you can't.
After 20 years.
After 20 years you can, but 20 years they got monopoly, no?
Yeah, but so I'm continuing with the extended. So what is extended on?
See, it is they got the patent in 2002. They filed in 2002. That was the first patent. Then they filed additional patent. Continuations were kept on filing. So their final patent, if you saw, it was expiring in 2026. That was the method of your use patent. So that means for some or the other use, they could stop people till 26.
4 years.
They had to come up with alternate
Formulation.
Not copy neither qualitative or
Because it was composition patent was there till 23. They had to do non-infringing. Once you do non-infringing to nasal, you have to do clinicals. Okay, so let's see the second such example. This is recently granted patent by Patent Office. This is a triple combination doravirine, lamivudine and tenofovir disoproxil fumarate, so anti-HIV. The patent is recently granted in January. Now again, when it was filed, the examiner came up with that it doesn't give sufficient data of the combinations that they are workable. That is section 10.4. It is not inventive because doravirine combination of lamivudine and tenofovir disoproxil is known since ages. So this is just addition of doravirine. This is what is the new thing in that. And of course, it is using the known disoproxil fumarate salt. So it is section 3D also will come into picture. So now what did the response that was filed by patentee was 90 pages. What did they do there? They tried making a story to examiner. Now that's a long story, you can read it, but in short I will tell you is they tried to show that doravirine exists only, like if you remember ritonavir only can be formulated as in hot melt extrusion process because it is only exists the chemical form exists as a amorphous form and you can only stabilize this by a hot melt extrusion. So doravirine is another example like that. It only exists in amorphous form and therefore you have to prepare a hot melt. So that means again this is a formulation challenge of putting a hot melt extrusion technology drug in a bilayer with tenofovir and lamivudine. So you are creating a story that it is difficult, one, to do hot melt extrusion of an amorphous form. Second is stabilize it with a double drug and creating a bilayer of the same. So he talked about the formulation difficulties he faced in those entire 90 pages to convince the examiner. But in reality, if you see, he has just done hot melt and compressed bilayer tablet. Tenofovir and lamivudine is a known combination. So in reality, he has just.
Did this have a synergy, or it was only population challenge?
No, there is synergy, but
X synergy is okay or expected. If you said previous had 5x,
see,
5-fold.
so 5-fold to Mila, they got it. But if you are combining two.
1 + 1 = 2.
Two,
What is the minimum?
So what is 1 + 1 if it is 2? So if it is you get 2x, it is not allowed. If it is anything which is unexpected, so more than significant is what? Either it is, if it is 2-fold, then you make it 3-fold or 4-fold. So you have to convince the examiner that it is, and convincing is not only by oral arguments, you have to show data. So that means Azilestin Futicas also, Cipla did the clinical trials wherein individual drugs and combination were tested together in the same group on crossover studies, and they showed that this was a 5-fold synergy. So here also you show it individual this thing, and they showed that it had synergy also, plus it's a formulation challenge also.
Again,
and then third.
Correct.
Alternative.
Correct. So this is example where it was refused. So I'm not going to go and refuse example because it is simply they couldn't prove the story and it was rejected. It's going to be with you. I'll pass on the slides, so don't worry. So this is just we saw. So you have to remember a time clock of 1 year. And we often say that, suppose say for example, you have filed a patent in India and by university, and university doesn't have so much of money to spend, or so you have collaborated with German collaborators and you want to file a patent with them, and they also don't want to spend so much because they've not commercially, they've not gone commercial on the product. So initially for the first patent, they only ask you to file either in India and in Germany. So if we file only in India is not sufficient. So if we want to file in less than 2 or 3 countries, would PCT would be an option for us? PCT filing fees itself is only 1 lakh rupees, which is pretty high. So what is other option for us to do it? Indian patent law gives us one option which is called as convention application. So that is, if you have less than 2 countries, you can file as a convention application. But the condition is again same like provisional and complete, that if you have filed in today, that is 12th November 2022 in India, you have to file in Germany within a year of same. So before 12th November 23, you have to file in that particular country, or vice versa. If you filed in Germany first because your collaborator wants to file first, you have to come in India within a year's time, and you will treat that as a convention application.
These patents can be linked.
It is linked only. It is similar way. It will be treated as if you have filed in India, but it's called a conventional application.
The date of filing in one of the countries.
In one of the countries. So that's the key. If you've lost 1 year, then you've lost the right. So that is why I showed you that time clock is everywhere. It is 1 year. So these are some of the tips I think we already discussed most of it. Publishing your research or publicly disclosing anything which is, by the way, if I say something here in this class, would it be considered as public disclosure? Yes. What if I say only between something with only 5 of us? Consider this as Johnson and Johnson's corporate conference room. Then no. Why?
The staff, we have signed secrecy agreement.
Yes. So corporate, you are under secrecy agreement. But if it is presentation in front of more than 5 people, it is considered as public. So it is always a solution to keep it away from public domain. So first file the patent, that's the key. So these are some of the other examples of public disclosures. Conference abstract, even if you write a letter to editor, a journal article, email description, you're writing an email for a grant, public forums, poster presentations, thesis submissions, scientific presentations, official demo at trade show, even official demo for industry collaboration at industry office is also considered a disclosure. So always it is better to file a patent first before doing all such things. Banking data on website, some departmental seminar, all these are examples of public disclosures. So now coming to SVKM University, as per SVKM new patent policy of 2017, all the inventions should belong to SVKM. So we are also part of SPPTM, BNCP, they are all Shirpur College, they are all part of SVKM family. So SVKM is a trust and SVKM family, so whomsoever are inventors can be, but assignee would always be SVKM.
It doesn't go with the name of the investigator.
It is depends on how you do a collaboration. So if you are doing a collaboration which says that there will be a joint ownership, in that case there would be a joint ownership of SVKM with that organization. If not, then it will be either SVKM, or if the full sponsored one is that industry, then it will be that industry. But that should feature in that MOU. In the absence of feature, it will be SVKM.
In that case, inventor will be us, and the applicant would be the company or SVKM.
Yes, yes. So it is always better to keep it, and you can go for publications as part of your MPharm work. But before that, it is always advisable to patent it. And these days, to tell you all, I've been in corporate for many years. When we appoint, I was on panel, usually in big companies, you know that for R&D department, there is a panel of interviewers. So I was in panel of interviewers at Cipla, at Lupin, and at Alchem too. And the first criteria which is seen is that of that researcher who was a prospective employee is whether that person has how many patents that person hold. So it's not only nowadays we don't see that he or she is a ranker. Earlier days, a ranker used to get an easy way out, but nowadays it is seen that how many patents he or she has it. So, and it's not difficult to file. It's only 1,500 rupees for an individual as well as an institute to file a patent now. Earlier, our institute's name, it used to be very costly, but now it is the same. Plus, you can also, normally a patent takes in India around 5 to 8 years to have a grant, but nowadays you can get an expedited application filed. The fee for expedited, which is reduced now, for industry, the expedited fees is as it's around 80,000 rupees for an industry, whereas for an educational institute, it is reduced to 80%, so just 8,000 rupees. And there is a guarantee with that expedited application that you will get the patent granted. If it is really an invention, it will be granted within 1 year of date of filing. So I urge everyone, if you really want to make your career in good company, in research, be fast in filing patents so that when you get out of the college, you have patent in your hand. I can go on and on and on. I have shown you some of the, I took a few examples. Just before closing, I want to go give you some of the design patent examples, which are just simpler modification. So as you can see here, this is a disc inhaler, Adware discuss, everybody knows. This is developed by Cipla. It looks similar. It looks similar. It looks modified. Cipla got 4 patents. See, this is the modification. Cipla did modification to all the inside parts. So as you can see here, and Cipla earned 4 patents from the same. Just minor modifications, convincing the examiner, and you got 4 patents on the same. Another example is a cap for a ophthalmic preparation. Innovator had kept it, if you see here in the next slide, innovator had kept this distance to have the particular drop size for the eye because it was once a day preparation. Non-infringement was done by a company by just adjusting the height, maintaining the drop size, and this was another patent. Interesting? That's Lupin's patent. I just tried showing you the small examples which can give a patent. So we always think that patent is, something very big. It's not. It's like being intelligent is not sufficient. Be little smart to get the protection. Lawyers are little more smarter than us. Okay. I did that eventually. Eventually, I landed up doing second PhD.